welcome to Parenting Today. My name is Rebecca Miruri Mulure. Thank you so much for joining us. Now, on today's episode of Parenting Today, we're going to discuss character development in children, building life skills and values. How do you ensure that your child grows up with the right social graces? And also just to know how to live with people. On set today is Mrs. Jane Okello Opal. Thank you so much for joining us. Thank you, Beryl Otieno, on my right here. Thank you so much for joining us. We're going to have this conversation. Beryl is a mother of 2, and Jane is a mother of 4. Welcome to the show, ladies.
Thank you.
Tell me about your babies. Let me call them babies. I don't know that they're adults.
Yeah, let me start with my babies.
Yes.
Yeah, so I'm a mother of 2 daughters. The eldest is 6 years, and the youngest is 13 months. My 6-year-old is currently in school, and of course the 13-month-old is at home. Yeah, and the experience I've had with them so far, it's a learning experience when it comes to, of course, character development. And it has taught me that character development starts, I would say, and even life skills and all that starts at conception.
Interesting.
So all that starts at conception. And maybe before we, get into the deep of it,
Yes.
I allow Jane to tell us about her children.
Because that was my first question. I like it that you had already started touching on it, but let's get to you, Jane.
Okay.
Tell me about yourself.
Rebecca, thank you for having me. Like you said, my name is Jane Opal Okello, a mother of 4 adults, 28, 27, 24, and 21.
Awesome.
And I look forward to having this discourse today.
Great. I love it that we have a mother of adults, and here we have like, I think, alphas.
Yeah,
Generation alpha. So, like you said, so when did you start developing the character? At conception? Tell me about that.
Yeah, I would say with confidence that, life skills building and character development, all that starts at conception because, like, we are told in science, the well-being, the state in which the mother is at the point of conception contributes quite a lot, of course, to physical development of the child, cognitive development, the whole child. And so that's why we are, encouraged that even at the time when you're planning to have kids, you're in the right state of mind, you're in the right form of health, even physically you're at your best. And as much as we may not be able to control all that, it's still important that a lot of effort is put into the well-being of the mother-to-be to just ensure that now when the baby is born, the baby is able to perceive the environment right when they are born. So so I would confidently say that also babies, they learn from the environment and they're able to read vibes, if there's such a word.
Yeah.
So they're able to perceive the environment because that is the first place for learning. So the well-being of the mother is easily transferable to the baby. So if the mother is stressed, then we'll definitely have a baby who is stressed. And then, of course, a baby who is stressed, that already means that this child is not able to cope or to manage the emotions right from the time they are babies. Yeah.
It's really deep. Jen, tell me about your adults.
Okay.
And
Yeah.
raising them.
Let me first start by agreeing with what Beryl has said, that character development actually begins and behavior begins at conception. Because by the time a child is born, by the way, psychology tells us that they are born with 400 possibilities of what kind of behavior they will adopt. And so that's why a child who is even raised without a parent will pick something along the way because they are already inbuilt with those possibilities. And so where parenting comes in is intentional parenting allows the child to be molded in a particular direction that the parent desires or the parent knows. And so I would also just like to reiterate, for my case, what I learned was I could not give my children what I did not have. An unhealthy mother cannot raise healthy children. A healthy mother is what ultimately is able to raise healthy children. And so in parenting, one of the things that you need to be very intentional about is your own welfare as a parent, your own welfare as a mother, and particularly mothers, because we are the ones who carry these children for 9 months. They pick our moods, they pick our energy while they're still in the womb. And by the time they're suckling, by the time you're training them, by the time they're growing into 9 years old, 13 years old, you're the one who has more interaction with them than their father. Though there are some fathers who have a lot of heavy presence in the lives of their children, which is a good thing. But from where I sit with my adult children, one of the things that I've realized, and even what they do tell me right now, most of the things that I passed down to them were not the things that I necessarily spoke, but the energy that they picked from me. Because many parents think that what we tell our children ultimately is what actually molds them into being. But you may tell your child something, but they will pick the energy with which you're speaking to them or with which you're training them, and that is actually who they become. Yeah.
All right, I'm learning so much from both of you. I have a 5-year-old and a 4-month-old, so I'm actually getting so much from you. So you're 6-year-old. I'm thinking about a child who was born, and a girl who was born like 6 years ago, and there you are. Like, what are some of those things that you've been able to do intentionally, like to ensure that she's grown up with a lot of confidence, or she's grown up like, very aware of her surroundings, very aware of who she is. Yeah, so what are some of the things that you've done for your child?
I liked a term Mrs. Okello used called intentional parenting. So, what I've been able to do with my 6-year-old would be to be present most of the time when I'm able to. And another thing is, which is really key, is that children learn by observing and like modeling. So for me, like she's rightly said, you don't have, they will not pick what you're saying, but rather they watch what you're doing. So I've come to learn that a lot of the things that my child has picked are the things that she observes, she observes me doing. And so that already also puts us at home in this space where we have to be really intentional that there's a child that is learning from what we do. So as much as there are some habits that would mean you do not do in their presence, we are really careful about even the programs we watch on TV, the kind of, exposure she has on TV, the language around them, because you'll just, say something and the next thing you hear, your child repeating the same thing. Exactly. And you're like, where did she get this from? Yes. So we're really being intentional at home. Even when we have helps at home, it's really clear from the word go. This is the language we use here. This is the kind of dressing we because she will ask, why do you dress like this? And then there's also, we are in this space where, again, we have to be parenting where she participates. So she's not just a passive recipient. So she's allowed to ask questions. We are at this, space where there's why, and you don't get tired with the whys. So you keep, providing answers to the whys. So that has also helped. And you hear her sometimes also, chatting with her friends, and you realize that the honest feedback, that her being allowed to participate in, her upbringing is paying off. And the 13-month-old right now is learning also by imitation. So she's imitating what she sees us do. She is imitating how she sees us eat. So that again brings us back to the point of intentional parenting. So we really
and they learn exactly so much from
what they see. Exactly. Yes. So the home environment needs to be really an environment that is intentionally, building good character. Exactly.
I like that. What are some of those values that you instilled in your children that you see playing out right now when they're adults? Like, I think it's such a good thing, like, to have you on set today to just now look at it introspectively and say, like, okay, so I worked on this and I think it has paid off.
Okay. One of the values that we inculcated from a very young age, the intrinsic values, their value system. And in retrospect, like you have said, we would not have achieved that if we would not have given them the gift of a spiritual awakening. spirituality. Because having a value system that is not anchored on something, which is just morals of do this, do this, and don't do this, the child will get tired, and it's not sustainable. Because if they're confronted with something, if they're confronted with temptations, if they're confronted with the peer pressure, they will easily succumb unless they are anchored on something that is their true north, which they can then now constantly be going back to their true north to pick what is my value system. So what we did is early enough, we awakened their spirituality, and that was by allowing them to go to church, explore who God is, their own personal spirituality, and not necessarily religion, but spirituality is being able to understand your value as a person intrinsically, you know, so that
so this is the source of the values that
the source of the value. Yes. So whether mom or dad are there watching you, you're still able to do the right thing because the motivation is not external, but the motivation is internal. So I saw, or rather, when I look back, I see all my children, you know, they followed their own spiritual path. We don't necessarily go to the same church, but they follow their own spiritual channel, and as a result, they are anchored. Their value system, they are anchored on what they believe is right based on their belief system of God. And because when you talk of a value system, it must be pegged on something. Where is this value being drawn from? And so spirituality becomes a very important element in shaping character in our children.
Okay.
Yeah.
And I think we'll continue talking about that, because character development, I think, starts from, like you said, from a very young age, and you can probably just see the fruits later on in life.
Exactly.
Like, oh, kumbe alikuwa nasikiza.
Exactly.
Kumbe alikuwa anafanya vitu kama hivyo, you know.
True.
We're going to take a short
So
break,
true.
but don't go away. Welcome back. You're watching Parenting Today, and today we are talking about character development for our children. And on set is Beryl Otieno and Mrs. Jane Okello, who are telling us the experiences as parents. And before we took the break, we were talking about the values that we instill in them, and now later on, we see them playing out. What are some of those challenges that you faced, Beryl, in instilling values? I think I was talking to someone earlier on, you know, just saying how this digital age has disrupted a lot of things. And as a parent, I struggle sometimes with that. Like, how do you take her away from gadgets? How do you ensure that, or she grows up in a safe space without really interfering with the fact that the digital age is here? That is my challenge. What are some of the challenges that you've experienced, and how do you deal with them?
Thank you so much. Of course, we cannot run away from you know, social media and even the mainstream media, because at the age my children are, they're not very much, you know, on the digital the digital space. However, what I have seen as a challenge around, of course, even the mainstream media would be, you know, the TV, of course. So there would be things that she would watch on TV, but then she's at that inquisitive age, okay? So she would want to cross-check, because when she sees something on TV and it's not, you know, aligning with what mommy and daddy said at home, she would ask, why is this happening like this? Why are they doing that? And that's why I was telling you, for example, you know, there are programs that at a certain age, they're, you know, PG rating, and other programs that they would not be allowed to watch, because, of course, that is a clear, you know, departure from the values that we are trying to instill at home.
Yes.
And then we are living again in neighborhoods where we are in apartments, and we have so many other neighbors, of course, and children that
who might not be applying the same values that you're applying in your house.
Exactly.
Yes.
So as much as, you know, parents would try to say, you know, you don't go to people's houses until you know their parenting styles, it's still not very easy because they play outside. They go to school, they go to Sunday school and all that. So I think that has been a challenge, the fact that my child interacts with other children out there whose upbringing I do not know about. So I think for me what has worked, even, managing that challenge, has been to create this open, environment at home where my child is able to ask questions and to just cross-check. I saw this happening. Is this allowed? Is this, why is it happening like that at Akina so-and-so's place?
Yes.
And here it's not allowed. So,
yes.
yeah, we keep that open. And of course, we also have helps. And so that also brings us back to the topic of, just trying to bring to the fore the aspect of, child protection and things like safeguarding. So it's really important to vet, or to just try and do some sort of screening to the kind of, people that work in our homes around our children.
Yes.
Exactly, because that is also, if you have someone at home whose values does not align,
match up, yeah.
Exactly, then you have a challenge over there.
Wow.
Yeah.
And Jane, now having at least your children who are grown right now, what are some of those cultures that you had around your home?
Yeah.
That you've seen them probably carry to where they are right now? And another thing that she spoke about, having that open space where they can come and talk to you. So how did you build that? Because I think that's usually like a very big challenge.
Okay.
So those are two questions.
Yeah.
Sorry, I asked them.
Thank you. Thank you.
Yeah.
Let me start first of all with culture. One of the cultures that we embedded in our family from the time when our children were very young was a culture of open communication. I remember at one point I got a house help from hell, one of these house helps from hell. And were it not that we had a culture of open communication with my son, the house help had wanted to actually sexually molest my son. And he communicated to her and told her, I'm going to tell mom. Much as he was threatened, even with death, the first thing, and the house help actually thought maybe he was just bluffing. He wouldn't talk. Maybe the house girl thought they are not close, or this mother is too busy. She comes in late and leaves early, so this conversation will probably not progress. But the first thing he did when I came in was to report to me, that this lady actually attempted to do this, mama, and you had told me. And my son was in class 1, you can imagine. And you told me that I should always tell you anything, I should not fear, even if somebody threatens me. And because of that, that open culture of communication, something that, it was just the beginning of his life. And he knew that he could come to mom and talk to mom. Mom is not going to judge you. Mom is not going to beat you. You're not going to suffer any negative repercussions for speaking. So that helped.
Yes.
And over the years, I learned that I needed to have an open policy of communication. And I've seen it work even with the other children. And even as they progressed on to their teenage years, that is one thing that really helped, because they could come and talk to us about anything, either me or the father.
Yeah.
They could talk to us about anything, their spirituality, their sexuality, what was happening in school, what was happening around them. And so up to today, you talked about what are those things that they have still carried forward up to today. Up to today, my son can call me and we can talk about anything. Whatever challenges he's having. Of course, right now, there are those things he will not discuss with mommy, which he feels, and it's age appropriate that he doesn't discuss them with me. But he always knows that he can come to us and talk to us about anything. Yeah, one of the things I didn't tell you that I'm also a counseling psychologist. One of the problems that I see with a lot of teenagers and a lot of our societal problems that we have at the moment. A lot of children are going through depression. A lot of children are even actually suicidal. A lot of children are confused with no value system. They don't even know what to follow because they have no space, safe space where they can talk to. And the best gift a parent can give their child is the gift of a safe space. What do I mean by that? a space where your child knows that even if they came and told you, I did this, this happened to me, the first thing you'll do is not to judge them or condemn them, but you'll first give them the gift of, receiving them and just accepting them the way they are. And then you help them from there. So many parents have confused that ability to create a safe space, especially if you came from a generation like ours,
Yes.
where the child was just supposed to be seen and not
heard.
heard. And we believe that children did not have a right, they are not supposed to talk. But at least Beryl's children
parents are always
know
right.
their rights,
Yes.
yes. And our parents were always right, and you were just there to be seen. You could not talk, you had no right. So coming from that generation, a lot of parents still carry over that kind of a mentality, and it's causing a lot of harm to our children, and especially teenagers and young adults, because the minute they open their mouth to speak, the first thing they will receive is condemnation and harsh judgment. And even the issues, the evils that are currently bedeviling our society, the issues of LGBTQ, we have children who would not necessarily end up there, but who find themselves there because they didn't know where to go to, safe spaces. And so they confided in the wrong company, or they confided in the wrong people who advised them wrongly, but gave them the gift of acceptance. As human beings, we tend to go where we are accepted. And so when children reach early adulthood or even teenage, adolescent, then they pick where they are accepted. And it is said that from the age of around 13 to 21, your child thinks that you are their enemy, and that their friends are the most important people in the world.
Right.
And that's why most of the children in that age group would rather confide in their friends than in you as the parent. So you need to be intentional as a parent to then create a safe space where your child will choose you before thinking of going to confide in their classmate, in that neighbor who is their age mate, that they first come to you, they first choose you, because they know if they come, you won't condemn them, and you will even understand them, you will even speak their language.
Okay.
Yeah.
I want to get back to Beryl. What are some of those lessons that you learned when you were being brought up by your parents that you've carried through, that you'd like your children to also just carry through the generations?
Yeah, to be precise, like one of them would be, I would not want my children to be very dependent, on my presence. So what, it's like part of life skills. So even for the 6-year-old, there are activities that she's allowed to do, age-appropriate activities that she's doing at home already. So she knows that, like when you come from school, your clothes will not be thrown everywhere.
Yes.
She already, I'm already giving her some responsibilities to begin, to take over, to take up. And like even, like, can you watch your sister for 1 minute, something like that.
Yes.
So I'm just trying to already teach her that she also has responsibilities. As much as she's a child, she has responsibilities. And that is important in building life skills. And then I'm also teaching her, of course, what I've also taught, to say what you want or what you need. Okay, use words. I hear them being told in schools, use words and not, silent treatment and crying and tantrums and things like that. So there's open communication, but of course there's also that opportunity for her to communicate, to say what she wants.
Exactly.
So and that is helping, because we want to raise children who have communication skills, who know what to say where, polite words and stuff like that. Children who can be brought up by anyone else outside our home and still blend in and still have good character, So, those are some of the things that I'm trying to do. And of course, just instilling good character, of course, just learning, being disciplined. And that does not necessarily mean, corporal punishment or beating them up. So we have this opportunity to discuss, you've done this, so, this is not what mommy said we should do. So what do you think should happen to you? So what do you think we should do? So we are at this space where I'm trying to help her understand that there are consequences to negative things. Anytime she goes against what has been told, there are consequences. So I need to bring up a child who knows that it's not just a carefree environment in
Exactly.
society. There are consequences that come with losing or distributing your pencils to everybody at school so that tomorrow you do
You
not
don't have
have, or you're telling me
pencil
at 8 p.m. you have no pencil. So that you just go
because
without.
you want to be generous.
Exactly. So yes, I am encouraging you to share,
Yeah.
but you also have to be responsible.
Yes.
So don't tell me at 8 p.m. you have no pencils.
Uh-huh.
So you also go and borrow from the ones you gave.
And I think that's the line that
Exactly.
that had weren't as like to that had weren't defined after this short break by Sharon Munyiri, who's coming in as our expert today, to define like where do you draw the line? Like, oh, so sharing is caring.
Exactly.
But again, that doesn't mean that you share everything. After this short break. Welcome back. You're watching Parenting Today, and today we're discussing character development in children, developing life skills in your child. And joining us right now is Shalom Munyiri, an author and a counseling psychologist. Welcome to the show.
Thank you so much,
On
Rebecca.
set is Berry Loteno and Mrs. Okello, Jen Okello Par, who's also sharing her experience as a parent. Welcome.
Thank you.
When do you start building character, a child's character?
Wow, I think probably before you start building the child,
Oh, wow.
right? I mean, because there's the element of children learn from what they see, right? And therefore, they'll be picking a lot of that character from you, the parent. So I think one of the things to first consider is, who am I? You know, what's my character already? Because understand that you will pass that on to your children, right? But when you're a calm, especially calm mother, when you're carrying the child, you're likely to give birth to a child who's calm. Not always, but at least the child doesn't come out with that much stress. So it's also managing your own emotions and everything else that's going around you. And then there's some things that you can't control. For instance, you know, the environment in which you live. We have women who are giving birth in really tough situations, you know, slum area or in difficulties, right? How do they then still build character even when they're in a stress environment? It's thinking. I like something that is referred to, you know, when you're being intentional as a parent, right? When you're being intentional as a parent, it helps you look at what you have and see what am I going to work with. Yeah.
And I like that.
Yeah.
So when you talk about life skills, you're developing character, you're developing life skills for these children, and I like how you brought up like the different setups and how the environment can just influence how a child grows up. How then do you shield your child from, you know, from outside influences? How do you ensure that they have like this culture, like this is what we do here in our house,
Yeah.
this is us? You know, I have a 5-year-old and she keeps telling me, oh, why do my friends play from morning till night and I can't play,
yeah.
you know, till night? They play till when it's dark, that's when they go home. And I tell her, no, that is them, this is us. Like, you know, at home here, you have to be back home by 2 p.m. or 3 p.m. and get a nap, like an afternoon nap.
Yeah.
So how do you build that without really allowing the outside environment interfere with your child?
I think one of the biggest challenges parents have is to try and shield their children from the outside environment. Now, the thing is, it's easy to succeed when the child is, like you're saying, 5-year-old. You can set a rule, you can have dire consequences, etc. But have you prepared them for that environment when they're teenagers, when they're young adults? So you see, like when you're teaching your daughter, the 5-year-old, you can actually go and look up all sorts of character strengths, right? So if I take the example of gratitude, you want to teach your daughter gratitude. It won't just be about telling people thank you. You want her to also appreciate why you do the things you do at home. And that will help her look at things like, okay, I know it's not being done there, but it's not the same out there, but I'm grateful for what we are doing here. And there are many ways of doing this, and some of them can be, well, yeah, you know, African mom. When my children would come and say, how come it's not happening in their house? I would tell him, gosh, they're so unlucky I'm not their mother. You know, like you should be grateful kind of thing. And when they grow up, they actually do come back and tell you, I'm actually grateful that you taught me that. Because this is how it is serving me in real life. So probably the other thing I would say is, as a parent of a young child, understand that they're not going to be young forever. So what you're doing is parenting them for the future. So when you're looking at character, if we look at how do you know somebody has a good character or bad character?
Yes.
It's by the choices they're making, the things you're seeing them do, right? So character will be seen through actions, and therefore you can only teach it through having them do it. So when you're telling your daughter come at 2 instead of 5, like everybody else, you're slowly teaching her self-regulation. Because see, she'll need to come in even when she doesn't feel like coming in. When she's older and she needs to do homework and there's this TV show to watch, she's already started learning the skill of, you know what, I can actually pause this thing that I'm enjoying to do what I need to do. So when it comes later, you're teaching her diligence. Are you seeing how they just go building up?
Yes.
Yeah? When you're telling her she needs to persevere, to keep to a task and not give up, she already knows, okay, first I can leave this alone to do what needs to be done, self-regulation, and then slowly by slowly work at this because it needs to get finished. So you're teaching her perseverance. So even when you teach life skills, so here's the thing, life skills versus character. Life skill is the skill to do life, right? So what do you need to do life? As a young person, you need to get from place A to B. Therefore, understanding how transportation works, asking for directions, asking for help, managing your time. You can't be getting invited for a job interview and you're waking up 30 minutes to time for a 2-hour trip.
So
Manage
it's even
time.
like what time they wake up for school.
Exactly.
Like,
But you see, unfortunately, what happens is that in school, we think that our children have time management because they're in a school setting, but that's because school has punishments and other consequences towards such things. They have a bell that will ring for those who are in boarding and also in between periods. So you assume that your child will understand how to keep time, but they can't without that reminder. And then we parent them by waking them up. I need to wake my child up to go to school. I need to remind them to eat their breakfast because we are getting late for church, you know. We do all the thinking for them and therefore deny them the life skill. Therefore, it's possible to actually teach character without teaching life skill. And also the reverse. Teach a life skill without teaching character. That's why we
how does
have
that
people-
play out?
I mean, that's why we have the problems we have in society today. Because we have brilliant thieves. I mean, they're robbing the public coffers and feeling nothing. No moral, you know, they're not even feeling anything about stealing from what we call the Wanjikos.
Yes.
They are poor people. In fact, they're looking for creative ways to rob.
They
to
have all the
rob-
life skills,
Exactly.
but no character.
Exactly, they have no character. So that's how that would play out. So you can have character and lack life skill, or have life skill and lack character. So for instance, if we take something like time management, you'll have somebody who's very good at time management, right? So they're there and they're on time. But they have no humility, so they rub it in people's faces. They are arrogant at another level, you know, and that's not good character. And then you may have these people who are creative, which is a life skill that is even being taught. You know, we have schools teaching collaboration, creativity, critical thinking, and all that person does is use it to steal. They have excellent life skills, horrible character, right? So as a parent, you need to be thinking about the two, you know. How do you want, like I said, you're raising a young kid, not for them to be children forever, but for them to be a grown-up who fits within society.
Within society.
Yeah.
Wow. Ladies, do you have any comments about what she's talking about or any question that you'd like to pose to her?
Yeah, first of all, we're doing a lot of learning. I like how you've given the difference between life skill and character. And one thing that stands out for me is when you're talking about life skills, every parent gives a different life skill and a different kind of character installation in our children. Fathers have their unique role that they play, and mothers also have a unique role that they play. For example, and I think she will agree with me, that mothers teach us how to be emotionally regulated more than how fathers would teach us. Not that the fathers cannot, but mothers kind of being the ones that nurture are able to bring out those abilities in us. And so our father has their role and the mother has their role. And so that's why that intentional parenting and the way she started is so critical, that we start this before we even start manufacturing the children. You need to sit down, whom am I marrying?
Yes.
Who is going to be the father or the mother of my child? You know, let that conversation start from there.
What character do
What
they have?
character do they have
that they're likely to...
that they're likely to pass on?
What?
And so the father
Pass
comes
on
and
to the
plays
child.
their role, which is giving identity, validation, and the mother also comes and nurtures and gives emotional regulation and all that comes with nurturing. And so I think that's a very important fact that really plays in intentional parenting.
Wow, I love
Yeah.
that. Question? Any question, Barry, that you have for Shalom?
I wanted to agree with Shalom in terms of, you know, the life skills and how she was explaining them. I like the fact that she alluded to consistency. Okay, so when you're building character and you're also trying to train children, you know, in life skills, the element of consistency is very key. So it's not like today you're telling them this and then tomorrow you're telling them, you know, you're telling your child, come back at 10. Tomorrow it's come back at 6. So if you're not consistent, and you know children are different ages, like my 6-year-old right now, and they will want to test limits. So if you're not consistent, then, you know, they also don't know, they will always, everything will go. So there has to be that element of consistency as we try to train, you know, children in life skills and also character development.
Character development.
Yeah.
As we wind up, Shalom, what is the importance of parents being, you know, speaking to their kids in one tune, like trying to develop character in one tune as opposed to, oh, one parent is saying this and that. And we've seen, like, that's a challenge in so many homes, by the way.
Oh, yes.
You know, like, one parent is okay with this, the other parent is not okay with it at all.
Yeah.
Yeah, so what would you say about that?
I like approaching it from a vision casting perspective. We sit in our businesses and in our companies and we cast 5-year visions and 10 years. You know, we say this is where we foresee our company being, you know, or our business being. We don't do that enough for our children. If parents could actually sit back and say, this is who I want my child to be when they're older, then come back and parent them in that direction, then it would help sort of like synchronize that disagreement and the disunity that ends up coming. Because you'll find, why does the fight come? Because one parent says, this is who I am, the other one says, this is who I am. Or they could even be not living together and therefore they're using the child to fight each other. And therefore whatever they're doing to the child is to get back at the other parent. But if we could actually step back and think, what's these young adults that we want to have at the end of all this parenting journey? Because the time comes when you're not doing as much parenting. You know, I have young adults. I don't parent them much. What I do is cheer them on for the decisions that they're making. And now is when we are seeing that character. But if we had not thought and said, okay, even when my husband and I are bringing them up and we are thinking, okay, you do this and you do the other, it's because we are all going the same direction, right? So let's say he's the fun-loving one and I'm going to be the strict one. We know why we are taking on that role. So I don't go trying to compete to be fun and he doesn't have to compete to be strict, because both are needed to take this child in the direction that we want them to go.
Wow.
So I think it's to partner with a vision in mind. Look ahead, come back and parent them in that direction.
Okay.
Yeah.
That is really great. And as we wind up, you're an author. Which books have you
Oh.
read?
Yes, I've written a couple of books on parenting. I have one called The First 6, and that's about parenting in the first 6 months to 6 years, right, around that time. It helps the parent it's a playbook, so it helps you make decisions around tantrums, how they're going to use technology, you know, the values, systems, and all that. Then I have another one called Eggs, Hammers, and Chili Peppers. Now that's for connecting with teenagers, because that's where now it's called the rubber meets the road. That's when you see whether what you are doing worked, and it's still, I think, a prime time to repair any damage before they get into adulthood. So it's called eggs, hammers, and chili peppers.
Eggs, hammers, and chili peppers. And where to find out why the eggs, hammers, and chili peppers. Thank you so much, ladies. It was so great having you on set. We had Shalom Munyiri, a counseling psychologist, on set today, acting as our expert, and she's shared so many insights, and we are really grateful for that. Thank you so much, Shalom. We also had Jane Omolo Opar. Thank you so much for being on the show today and sharing your insights on raising your 4 adults right now. And Berry Lotino, a mother of 2. Thank you so much for sharing your journey with raising your kids. This has been Parenting Today. My name is Rebecca Miruri Mulure. Thank you so much for watching.
Welcome to Tile and Carpet, where we deal with everything you would need at home, in the office, restaurant, and hotels. We offer solutions to all your needs. We have a wide range of roofing solutions, tiles, sanitary furnishing, and interiors. We have exquisite furniture, elaborate dining sets, and classic comfy beds. Our prices are affordable across board. Feel free to visit us in any of our different branches in Mombasa, Kisumu, and Nairobi. We also do site visits and offer clients with professional advice. You can reach us on this number for the site visit.